It's 10 from me.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Emma Wharton-Love, co-founder of Spark AI, and I'm really glad that you're joining us today. For those of you who haven't met me before or met Spark, at Spark AI, we help creative and marketing teams adopt AI, and we do that in a very structured, intentional, and actually useful way. We run training programs like the AI Accelerator. We publish playbooks for CMOs, and every 6 months we release a market research report into how AI is being used inside creative agencies. If you haven't had that latest edition, I'll pop the link in the show notes. It's free to download. Today's session is a bit special. We are going behind the scenes with two of our early AI Accelerator clients, with Oli Lee from Analogue and Ali Williams from Mark Making. Thank you both so much for being with us. Thank you for really generously agreeing to share your experiences. I'd love it if you just both introduce yourselves. Oli, you're first on my screen.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name's Oli Lee. I'm the MD here at Analogue. As Emma mentioned, we've just been through the AI Accelerator program, so excited to chat about our experience today.
Oh, thanks, Oli.
I'm Ali Williams. I'm co-founder at Mark Making. We're B2B brand strategy and creative agency, primarily focusing on financial services, but not exclusively. And like Oli, we've been through this accelerator as a big step for us, and looking forward to sharing our experience of that.
Oh, well, thank you both. So we're going to keep this super focused. We have decided on 7 core questions we're going to cover today. Everything from what felt most overwhelming at the start to like the moment you realized AI could genuinely help with the teams, and how you brought the skeptics along, all that good stuff. So we'll get into it. But for those that don't know, the Accelerator program is a 3-month program. So this has been a big chunk of 2025 for you both. So yeah, thanks again for sharing. Right, let's go. Let's start off with really what felt most overwhelming at the start. Like AI is overwhelming for all of us, even those of us like me that work in it every day. So for you both, perhaps Oli, would you like to start? What felt most overwhelming for you?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a massive question, and in all honesty, there was a lot that felt overwhelming. I think, some elements of it were, so I guess the first element was sort of not really knowing where we were on our AI journey.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know. And there's kind of varying usage of AI across the business prior to jumping into it. There was, and I guess, no clarity on what we use it for or how we use it. Just a general understanding, really, that it was used for nothing that would go out to a client. So I guess, understanding, it was useful for us to understand in the early stages with Jules exactly where we were, and therefore how to build a plan out of the back of it to put us in a position to understand how to use it, how to govern it, how to talk to clients and educate clients about our usage. So yeah, I mean, that was fairly daunting. Time investment was another element. Up front, Jules was talking to us about how he was going to run the program across leadership, strategy, and creativity, and the sort of being the core pillars of it, and the need to essentially shut the studio down to do those things. And for me, commercially, that's a big investment. So there was a little worry around that. And then adoption. Was it going to work? Would people embrace it? Like you mentioned, earlier, naturally with things like this, you'll always have a bit of a swing of skeptics and adopters. So there is a lot of work done up front to educate people on what it is that we were doing, why we were doing it, and what we hoped the outcome would be. I think as long as you're doing those things, it's fine. I guess the other elements to what felt overwhelming up front were the sheer volume of AI platforms, tools, and programs there are to use, and where to start, and what to use for the best outcome for us as a business. And that was very, very bewildering, because there are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of platforms that you could use, and our eyes were really open to that within the first session. But what Jules did really, really well is, for us, sort of refined all of those tools into some core tools that we should adopt, and reasoning behind each one of those tools, and where to place them within the various different workflows within the business, whether that's commercially or creatively or operationally. And then finally, I think the art of the possible, because you can do so much. And it's like, how do you harness unlimited and endless possibility into something that's practically useful for your business? And Jules helped immensely in this area, and I think it's the one thing that I'll take from the course, or the program, sorry. Jules structured it in such a perfect way for us. It was, he talked to us about how we use it for automation, how we use it for augmentation, and how we use it for innovation. And he overlaid that across leadership, strategy, and creativity. So I found we were in a position where we had clarity and comfort with those things. But yeah, it is an overwhelming and daunting prospect to bring AI into a business like ours.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that so candidly. And I think particularly what you mentioned about the tools and the unknownness of so much of it is, I hear that. I hear that a lot. I don't think you're alone there. I mean, Ali, did you feel similar things?
Yeah, you're not alone, Oli. I think everything you said there, we definitely felt. I think I felt really overwhelmed starting the course for a lot of the reasons. It's like all these tools, this proliferation of opportunities and things that you can use. Where on earth do you start? And so at the outset of the course, in that first session, my kind of overwhelm decreased quite a bit, because I could see some clarity and a path forward. But then it started to build again as I recognized how much time and effort and commitment it was going to require in order to do that. But even with the roadmap, the kind of challenge of not being a big agency with lots of resource, how do we make sure that this actually happens going forward? And your point, Oli, about, again, just that there is so much to be thinking about, or there are so many things you could be looking at. Jules and you, Emma, did a great job of making us recognize there's probably 3 or 4 things that you could focus on. And actually, if you learn how to interact and get the best from those tools, other things as they evolve, because things are evolving so quickly, will become more intuitive to you anyway. And I think that's the ongoing proliferation and the number of tools that continues to feel a bit overwhelming. But if we even in the duration of 3 months or 3 or 4 months that we're working with you, I think you guys were quite quick to highlight, and it was clear to see how quick things were changing on a daily, weekly basis. Every time we checked in, things have moved on. So that's overwhelming, but I think you were able to kind of bring some kind of clarity and reality to that in terms of what it actually means and where we should be focusing.
Oh, great. Yeah, one of the key messages we really try and get across is to try and get rid of the FOMO of all the tools being launched all the time, like needing to try the next one and the next one. And it's more about, actually, they're going to keep changing so much over the next year or two. Let's just work out, when we do decide to use one, like how to use it really well and get the most out of it. Yeah.
I think just to add, really thinking about it, one of the things that was concerning and I guess overwhelming up front was the prospect of how the course was going to be delivered across the team that we have here. So we're about 19 people, and across those 19 people, we've got quite a swing of like neurodiversity, and some people have never sort of been on a program like this and had to sit and listen and consume information and learn in the same way that others have. And it was something that Jules and I spoke about prior to the delivery of the program. And, he put me allayed any fear quite early on because of the way that he structured the program and how sort of engaging it was. And it's not just, I think it's really important that people understand that it's not just sitting and listening for 3 days and being talked at. It's very, very collaborative and very engaging.
Yeah. I mean, we take you through a brief in each module, don't we? Apart from the leadership module, that's slightly different, I guess. But it's we try to make it as much like working on a project in a different way as possible. Yeah.
It was very clear from the outset that initial session just how much time and thought you'd put into structuring it in a way that is practical and manageable and does recognize different learning styles, different personalities, and this, the idea of, I mean, you'll know from our team, we've got clear super users who are always going to dive into this, and we've got people who are much less naturally inclined towards it. So I think you managed that really well, and it helped quite quickly get us on the same page, not on the same paragraph necessarily, but broadly on the same page, and that in itself had a ton of value.
Oh, great. And was there a moment for both of you that you kind of overwhelmed, that you had a few, like an aha moment at the beginning of, after? I can see why before you actually start, there's like a huge amount of like trepidation because of the unknownness about it all. But was there a moment like, oh, I can see how what we're learning here is really gonna unlock something for us?
I mean, for me, Oli mentioned the automation, augmentation, innovation, and I personally found that really, really helpful, because suddenly there was a practical application. You could look at everything that you're doing, process workflows, whether they're internal operations, whether it's strategic, whether it's creative, and think of it in those terms. And I think that was a bit of a light bulb moment for me, because it was a way of organizing how you think about AI. And then there were kind of more I suppose more micro things, just techniques, and everybody had some level of experience with AI, but I think looking at the skills and techniques around prompting was also a bit of an eye-opener and a leveler. So actually we're all approaching it in broadly the same way, and I think that had some immediate collective benefit.
Yeah.
So those would be a couple of things that made sense to me, but I appreciate probably different things landed differently with other people in the team.
Yeah. And then Oli, you were talking about like the range of people in your team, and some people have been involved in kind of, I guess, like this is, it's really some kind of a change program at heart that a lot of people haven't been through. And for the people that had, like, I guess, what was the mix of responses to it within the team for people that hadn't been through anything like this before, and those that had?
So the overwhelming response has been really, really positive. And I think the measure of that is that AI and the tools the AI tools that we use within the business are now just tools that we use in a business, just like any other. which is great. And I guess the nirvana, that's exactly what we wanted it to be, and that's what it is. You're right. There were people within the team that were sort of less, or I guess more skeptical about it. And there were people that were early adopters. But I think what we did, really early on, was sort of bring people along on the journey with us. Educated internally around what we were doing, why we were doing it, how we were doing it, making sure that everybody knew clearly that coming out of the back of the program, there wasn't going to be any mandatory use of AI, and giving people really the freedom and the exposure and the education to kind of make their own mind upon it. And what was sort of really interesting to see. I remember a moment I was talking to Mike, one of our creative directors, about it earlier, and he was saying there was a moment that he remembers, and I was kind of like bouncing around the room like an excited kid. And there was lots of those moments for me where I could see people's excitement and see people, I guess, organizing their thoughts there and then, and quite quickly becoming excited about it. So yeah, I think one of the things that Jules helped us do within the program was create an AI task force, which pragmatically and logistically helps AI and the adoption of it within the business live on after the sessions, the catch-up sessions with you guys. I think the one bit of feedback that I gave to Jules is perhaps that could have been formed much earlier on in the process, and that team could have done a lot more of the educating. We did it naturally anyway, but it would be good to sort of do more of that up front, because I think we could have probably expedited the mitigation of fear and worry and the unknown a lot earlier on within the process.
Like before the program started, or
yeah, absolutely. And the other sort of response from the team that was really interesting to experience and observe was, and just going back to the point of allaying the fear of the unknown, was that it was really interesting to see the team realize that AI is pretty rubbish unless it's got a really good human behind it. And I think AI is developing at a really rapid pace, but ultimately it still needs vision, it still needs direction, and it still needs somebody sat behind it, prompting it and directing it. So
it still needs the ideas. And
overwhelmingly positive response to it. Yeah,
that's great. I love the I wasn't in any of your workshops, but I love the visual imagination I've got of you bouncing around after session.
Yeah, there was plenty of physical reactions to it. There really was. Yeah.
I think that's why we love doing this, because it's like something you see people, you can see like the new things that it can unlock, and the sheer excitement of that is such a rush. It's great. Ali, have you got any reflections on that?
Really similar, overwhelmingly positive, a real galvanizing effect, actually, because we thought, we talked to you and Jules ahead of signing up. It felt like quite a commitment. I think a lot of agencies have been mindful of where they're investing, but the kind of consensus from the leadership team was, can we afford not to do this? And that was really kind of the approach that we took. And just the nature again of the way the course is organized, or the program's organized, it brings people together, people who are typically, we're not a big team either, but there are different departments, and for them to bring their own perspectives on how this could be used. And also, in those sessions be doing things that they wouldn't normally do. So maybe they're involved in a slightly more creative project, or the creative team are involved in a slightly more strategic exercise. So that was great in itself. We operate in quite highly regulated spaces, particularly financial services. So different roles and perspectives, again, from within the company reflected that. So I think certain people were approaching it with more caution. You know, what's our policy going to be actually? What does this mean for our clients, and how are we going to talk to them about it? So I think others were diving in, others were taking maybe a more considered, slightly more cautious approach, but overwhelmingly positive. And to Oli's point, you know, that recognition that it's still just a tool. It's like, back when Photoshop first came on the scene, that didn't make you a designer. That was just a tool to do stuff. Having a scalpel doesn't make you a brain surgeon, and it's the same principle. But I'm not sure everybody recognizes that, and without doing a disservice maybe to some clients, I think there is a perception that this is the holy grail, and that we can achieve the same things, the same levels of quality, without the need for an expert human in the mix, and it's simply not the case. So I think that was also reassuring for a lot of individuals, and their roles within mark making is still very much needed. This is a critical part of the process.
Yeah, definitely. And I think allaying those fears, those kind of existential fears, is a key part of it as well. Yeah. Was there anything that particularly surprised you during the process of the last few months, either of you? Something that you unexpected?
I mean, it was full of surprises. Like I said, right.
I'm sure that's good or bad, Oli.
Well, like I said at the head of the meeting, you know, there's endless possibilities with it. So I guess, you know, the one surprise was how broadly you can use AI, and like we've both said, you know, the structure and the framework that you guys implement across automation, augmentation, and innovation, and then how you split that up across the main elements of a business like ours. So strategy, leadership, and creativity really helped us define how we use it, where we use it, what we use it for. Yeah, I think, you know, the other thing is, in terms of surprises, how quickly people really did get excited about it and started to adopt it. And even people that were kind of less pro experimentation have really started using it, and to really good effect. I think, you know, for us, due to the clients that we work with and the IPs that we work on, we've got to govern how we use it incredibly closely, as I'm sure you do, Ali. And one of the things that Jules helped us do was put in place a governance policy, which really identified the part of the creative process that we use AI in. So yeah, I think, you know, like I said, full of surprises. How about you, Ali?
Yeah, I very, very much the same. I think also, and you might remember this from being in the session, Emma, obviously, and facilitating the session, there was a point where it became really clear to me that you have to be, as an agency, as a business, you have to be super clear on your own strategic direction. It's like your point, Oli, around endless possibilities, because the potential for this just to be a distraction at a kind of strategic level is huge. So I was there thinking, you know, there's maybe some short-term competitive advantage in this, but really the whole point is understanding, having laser focus around the direction of the business and your own positioning, your own kind of potential for long-term differentiation, all that stuff, And then how is AI actually going to support and inform and accelerate and augment all of that? So the AI strategy very much sitting with below the business strategy. So I guess, was it a surprise? It was more of just this kind of penny drop moment, really. It sounds really obvious, but I think that's kind of the nature of AI is it's so, your eyes are like, wow, it's so shiny and new. And then you go, actually, so that was helpful for us because it helped us sharpen what we're all about fundamentally. And once you got that clarity, or that little bit more focus perhaps than you had before, then it makes the endless possibilities thing also become way more focused. You know what you just ignore and where you can, where you should be spending your time and effort. So that was a kind of key moment for me, I think.
Oh yeah, that's great to hear. Because I think that kind of rooting everything back in like what your purpose is, why you're here, and it helps with everything. It helps like reduce down the possibilities. It helps your team know like what direction you're going in and why, and it helps you talk to your clients about like what your governance is around AI and why you're approaching it how you are. And so it's and I'm sure you both probably have ended up in using AI in different ways in different places with different policies because you are different businesses and with so it's definitely not a one size fits all approach with it. Yeah,
absolutely not. But having the power and the understanding and the education that we now have has helped us immensely having the conversation with the client. And what the end result of the conversations that we've had to date with clients is that we do have a swing of clients that and a swing of comfort from clients. Most of our clients have got legal departments 5 times the size of our agency. So, some of the conversations are more difficult than others. But we really do we've got clients that say, yeah, use it for everything, go for it. And we've got a really exciting project that we're working on right now that we're excited to be able to have that level of experimentation on. And what's coming out the back of it is amazing. But it still comes back down to that creative vision and the person sat there using it, right? There are other clients that we are able to harness sort of AI adoption and usage much earlier on in the creative process. So around the research, the insight and ideation element. And Ali and I were talking about this earlier. That really can be a distraction because all of a sudden you've got one person with the ability, with the allotted time to do just so many things. And historically they would go to, I guess, tried and tested processes around that sort of the research ideation process. So they would go to known destinations to look at reference and research. And now we've got a scenario where they can go to hundreds, if not millions, of different reference points. I think the key to it is just knowing how to refine that and build it into an output that adds clear value to the process. And for us, we are going deeper, we're going broader, we're going quicker in some respects, and we've created processes that allows the output to be higher quality to the client. And I think it's really, really important that agencies do that. Otherwise, we will find ourselves in a world where there's less value appended to certain elements of the creative process.
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to ask you about return on investment actually, and that kind of like nicely segues, I guess, in terms of that higher, you can that higher value, higher quality, new ideas stuff that you were talking about there, Oli. Is that where?
It's an interesting question, ROI. Certainly in conjunction with the program that we've been through, because there are almost infinite ways to measure ROI with something like this. For us, there is definitely ROI that's visible and tangible within the business already. We've probably paid for the course already in time, specifically within the operational element of the business. So business administration, the stuff that sits with, I guess, me and the back office team, it really does help with speeding up processes and automating processes in that area of our business. I think the sort of less tangible elements of ROI is more around that. I guess we feel good about ourselves. We feel like we're proactively managing our position around AI, which is great, because I think that one has a great cultural effect within a business. It shows that we're willing to invest in people and in areas of the business that we need to. From a retention and attraction point of view, it's incredibly valuable, in my opinion. So yeah, I think there's all sorts of manners of measure
that's so great to hear, because I think the number one thing that personally I always wanted to see as ROI coming out of it was like team engagement. And going into it, there's often so much fear. And if you can come out of it and feel excited about what you're doing and where you're working, that's amazing. Yeah.
It's all about the people, isn't it, at the end of the day? And if we've got people that are sort of enhancing and increasing their skill level by adding tools and experience to their portfolio of skills, you can't ask for much more than that.
Totally. Yeah. Ali, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Those kind of softer factors that are slightly harder to measure in a really quantitative way are things that we put a lot of importance on. So what I mentioned earlier, it seemed to galvanize the team at a point when needed a bit more of that, really, because I think everybody in their own personal journeys are becoming a little bit overwhelmed with AI and what it means for them, what it means at existential level, all of that. So I agree with Oli. It helped to become more manageable in a way, and that has value, and it brought literally, on a very literal way, brought the team together. But also, I think everybody now feels they're on a journey, being invested in. As an agency, we see the importance of this and what it means for the agency and the individuals within it. So, yeah, 100% agree with that. And then at an operational level, yeah, Oli and I were sort of chatting briefly earlier about this. You can see the kind of immediate returns there. That sort of, whether it's writing a policy, drafting something, that sort of blank sheet of paper, where do I start, has gone. So you can be way more productive. I think in the realms of what it's doing in terms of value to our creativity, I think we're starting to see that, but it's going to be a slower journey. So I think that sort of automation and augmentation at more functional levels of the business, we're seeing the return on investment, and I think in time we'll see it, and research and maybe some strategic elements, etc. But the kind of raw creativity piece, I think, is going to take a little longer to see how, to be really clear where the value is being added.
So your quick wins again are around like operational stuff, and what about client services as well? I wondered.
Certainly brief development, brief writing, interpreting the brief from the outset, writing the internal briefs off the back of that. The CS team are all over that now, which is great to see.
We're actually at the moment developing a client services module that's going to launch later in the summer. So yeah, it felt like it's complementary to the other parts. Fab. Well, we're coming towards the end of our time, and there are a couple of things that I just wanted to sort of finish up with, I guess, or I haven't got to. Firstly, like, maybe you could answer these like at the same time, but like, is there like one standout thing that you changed that has really stuck and is kind of like, that's, I don't know, that's the thing that you're super excited about? And then it's, what would you say to another agency or like brand creative team thinking about like how they go about adopting AI and where to start?
I mean, I think for me, the standout things that have stuck are mindset. So it is just another tool. It's not this big scary thing, and it has now been adopted within the business in that way. So just like we use the Adobe Suite and Figma and all of the other tools, the core AI tools that we use are just other tools, which is great. And I guess the other things that stuck is the process workflows that we built out within the program around the front end of the creative process. So the research, ideation elements, and allowing us to do much deeper research, but knowing how to refine that into something that's useful, because all of a sudden you explode out, and about what to do with all of that information and data and creative reference, and how to sort of bring that into something that's actually useful and not distracting, as Ali said. I think, yeah, they're the two main things that have stuck for us.
Oh,
yeah, very similar. That idea of tackling anything that you're doing, and I have to remind myself, this is the mindset piece, is with this particular task, whatever it is there an opportunity for AI to help me do this and help me do it better? Because I think the natural human tendency, or mine, is you just revert to kind of what you know, and then you think, God, I could accelerate this process, or I could. So that idea of AI being that other person in the room, recognizing all the limitations and how much it just wants to please you, tell you how great your ideas are, and suggest the next step and the next step, and you're like, whoa, hold your horses, I just want to get this bit right first. But that is a mindset change. And then I suppose for me, and I think for quite a lot of other people at Mark Making, just the concept of data, what data really is, and the importance of recognizing that everything has the potential to be data that's of value. So documenting, recording, you guys talk about having a separate folder where transcripts are kept. So you're building this real understanding of what you do, or the clients that you work for, whatever it might be. So kind of what data is and the value of that has really stuck.
Cool, great. And and what would each of you say to another agency leader wondering what to do about AI?
Well, like Ali said earlier, the question is, can you afford not to do it? And for me, the answer's no. And I know agency life isn't easy, and we work in a highly competitive industry with lots and lots of different agencies in there, and that means that you've usually, unless you're a behemoth, got so many rolls of the dice in terms of investments to make in a financial year. But for me, this is absolutely one of them. The recognition that AI is here, it's here to stay, it's not going anywhere, and it sort of develops at a rate of knots that outstrips any human's capability to almost keep up with it. Means that you've got to invest in it. You've got to build yourself a foundational understanding of it, and an understanding of how to apply it to your business, where to apply it to your business, and how it can enhance. Importantly, I think it's really important that where not to use it as well, because I think it's really exciting. Obviously, AI is really exciting, and I think one thing that we found ourselves doing within the process is almost trying to use it on everything. And there are absolutely pockets of the business where that just doesn't work. It slows you down. It sort of decreases the quality of the output. So it's important to establish where those areas are. But I think, once if you're speaking to Spark and you've made the decision to go with it, I think it's just about investing in the process and understanding that it's collaborative, and you've got to embrace it and enjoy it, but you've got to start by putting enough effort, energy, and resource into working with Emma and Jules to sort of ensure that they really know your business, so they can talk you through the program in a way that is personalized and gives you that personalized experience. So yeah, they're my thoughts.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and that does make such a huge difference, that we really get what you're about beforehand. Ali, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, all of that. Plus, I guess maybe building on something I said earlier, I think if you do embark on this journey, this program, which I would definitely recommend, no question, I think you would get more value from it if you perhaps were really clear in advance of your own business strategy. So, as I say, kind of point I made earlier, and within that, if you've got maybe some agencies will be further ahead than others, that the individual workflows, whether they're internal, whether they're as part of your creative process. Oli was talking about research, ideation, but what it's done for me is to look at, particularly the ones that I'm involved in, is get quite granular with what the steps are. You almost take it for granted that you've got this way of working, this methodology, that when you actually start taking it out of your head and putting it down, you realize that's really valuable in itself, because it works, and it can take an organization from A to B in a really really good way. But also, if you've got those in advance of embarking on the Accelerator course, then you can be doing where can we automate, where can we augment or enhance, and where can we innovate. So if I was doing it again, I would have done more there, and I think that might be something you could be talking to prospects about. We need you be as clear as you can on this and this, and then again, echoing what Oli has to say, I think you have to wholly commit to it as well. I think what I didn't say earlier in terms of one of the surprises, Steve, co-founder here, who has a more internal facing role operationally, etc. I think his point when he and I were talking about it was, don't underestimate how much effort is required in order to change, whether that's the mindset, whether the process. So it goes right back to what felt overwhelming at the start. It is a big commitment. It's 100% necessarily a necessary commitment. But don't underestimate the work that you'll need to put into it and continue to put into it. But go for it.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you both. We've absolutely loved working with both of you. Thank you for being such incredible clients, giving us really helpful feedback. Like some of the things you've just mentioned will, really help our future clients, and we can give them heads up on these things. So thanks so much. Thanks for your time. We've overrun slightly, so thank you for that too. And I think that's it from us. Cool. Great. Well, thanks everyone for watching. And see you again soon. Bye.
Thanks, Emma. Cheers, Oli.
Thanks. Nice to meet you, Ali.